Welcome back to another powerful episode of the Service First podcast, where we explore the power of putting a commitment to others first in business and in life. Join us as we sit down with industry leaders, entrepreneurs, and everyday people who are making a positive impact through their commitment to service. Get ready to be inspired, learn from the best, and discover how you too can put service first. Yeah, that being said, thanks for being here.
Yeah, thank you for inviting me.
Yeah.
I'm excited.
Yeah, it's been a long time coming.
Yeah.
You've definitely been high up on the list for people I wanted to sit down and have a conversation with.
Perfect. Here we are.
So, welcome to the Service First podcast. Thanks to Jackie for joining us. Jackie's been with our company at Sidewinders since day one in Bozeman, since we opened in 2017, and just excited to kind of hear your story, both from that day forward and your experience working in blue collar, but also your life in general and your life in the restaurant business, which spans far beyond blue collar. So if you don't mind, just kind of, introduce yourself, tell us who you are, and maybe a little bit of kind of, personal background first, and then we'll dive into restaurant specific stuff.
Okay. Yeah. Thanks, Blaine. So going back to where I came from, I think that's really important to talk about with who I am, the fiber of myself. I'm from southwestern Pennsylvania and kind of the coal belt of that area. I was born in a little town called Washington and grew up in a little place called Marietta. It was a coal mining town. My father was a coal miner, and my mom actually tried to be a coal miner for a minute there, and she's too claustrophobic to get through it. But, times are different back then. It was the kind of job that my dad could work in. He started when he was young. His father passed away whenever he was young, and so he became the supporter of his mom and his younger brother. And so that was something that was for young men to be able to get into. So he started down that journey. Like I see, my dad's got a lot of grit. He's a tough as nails person. He just never stops. And so that's definitely been instilled in me. Like, you just keep going no matter what. I mean, some stories that he tells, I'd love to record them on a podcast or something like this. They're just in my mind, and he's just a really interesting person.
Do you know how old your dad was when he started working at a coal mine?
He was 16.
Wow.
Yeah, and he was working with men in their 30s. Yeah. So he's had some pretty close to near-death experiences.
That is so crazy.
Yeah. So that says a lot about who he is. And, he and my mother met whenever he was 20 and my mom was 16. So they've been together ever since. And my dad's going to be turning 80 next year. So that's a good testament to loyalty, family, sticking together through everything. So they're amazing people as a couple. And so that's where I grew up at. Little girl, I used to walk the railroad tracks with my dad in Marietta, because then when the trains weren't running, we'd go out there and walk the tracks. It's just a little sleepy town, and now it's kind of gone by the wayside, like a lot of coal mining towns in Pennsylvania have since they stopped mining coal. There was a big devastating fire in the 80s that kind of shut everything down. And then I have my two older brothers that I grew up with, and they, just have been great mentors for me. I've always looked up to them. They always supported me. They always protected me, being the little sister. And then my mom is a wonderful lady. She ended up graduating with her master's degree when my older brother graduated with his engineering degree. So education's also important to our family. Work hard, love on your family, take care of those around you, and be loyal. And just always go forward, like no matter what comes up. So that's where I grew up at. That was kind of, moving forward to coming to Montana, kind of fast forward through a lot of childhood.
Yeah, how did you end up across the country from Pennsylvania to Montana?
So when I was in college, I went to college in Pittsburgh, and my high school partner, he was actually stationed in Korea. He was the Air Force. and he was discharged from the military for medical reasons, and his brother lived in Montana, in Dillon, and we just kind of, you're young, whatever, decided on a Friday, moved to Montana on Monday on Easter weekend. So we loaded up our vehicles, pickup truck and a car, and put whatever we could fit in there, and left on Monday for Montana with no place to live, no job, just his brother in Dillon, and he had friends that were still in the Air Force.
How old were you at the time?
18.
Wow.
No, 19. Take that back. Yeah. So that's, why not? Adventure.
Yeah.
I was always up for something like that. So made it to Montana, settled in Great Falls, lived at Malmstrom Air Force Base for a month or so with his friend, and ended up starting to work in the food service industry at Applebee's back in Great Falls.
So was that your first restaurant job?
No, when I was in high school, I worked at a little restaurant they're still operating called Eat and Park. They're known for their smiley face cookies, and I hosted there. So I did that in high school. My first one was when I worked at Dairy Queen, which is our local Dairy Queen in our little town called Ritchieville. And it was run by this old lady, and she was a stickler for everything. She definitely taught me about food waste from a very young age without me even knowing what it was, because she just, was kind of in the prep area. And that was back in the day when we actually had to make dilly bars and Buster bars from scratch. They weren't prefabricated. We actually had to dip everything and put the ice cream on a parchment paper and put it in a freezer. And I was always in the back because I wasn't old enough to operate the cash register at that time. The glory days of Dairy Queen. So, but yeah, she would find I had to do the prep stuff too, and she'd find a ketchup can in the garbage, and she'd come at me with a spatula do you not understand? You have to get everything out of this. It's very important. Scrape the lid, scrape the can. So, I worked there for one summer, and then that's whenever I started working at a restaurant at Eat and Park. So I hosted there, and then I became a server, and kind of just did that through high school, which was good money. And then went to college.
Yeah. And then Great Falls, Applebee's.
So Applebee's, Great Falls. So I go back. I'm in Great Falls. And so, obviously that relationship fizzled out. You're young. You just, whatever. So I'm at Applebee's in Great Falls and worked there for 2 years. Wasn't my favorite town to live in Montana. Mm-hmm. It was unique. So my one of my managers there actually moved here and opened the Johnny Carino's at Bozeman. And so he knew that I was just not loving it there. I worked full time and everything. So he said, hey, if you're interested, we're looking for some great people to come work with us here in Bozeman. It's sign me up. I'm there.
What were you doing at Applebee's?
Just serving.
Serving.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, just serving. So I moved to Bozeman in 2002 and started working at Carino's.
Wow.
And, just serving there for that time. And then it was called a UTC, so Unit Training Coordinator. And so I was, training everybody that came in. We had a really structured training program that took multiple days, sort of what we've adapted now at Sidewinders and with Blue Collar. Mm-hmm. So I was in charge of doing all that. And then I was a corporate trainer, so I got to fly to some other locations to open up restaurants. So I went down to Lake Charles, Louisiana, and opened a restaurant down there for them as a corporate trainer. And so that was a good experience. And then, that wasn't enough for me because I wanted to be in charge. So I worked my way into management there, and then eventually became the general manager at Carino's. So I was there for the 15 years before I came to Sidewinders at Blue Collar. Within those 15 years, I did take a step back for 1 year because I thought I wanted to do an office job and work the Monday through Friday, dressing up, not being in the grind, not being on the kitchen, not being on the line, not working fry, not doing prep. I thought I wanted to be in a different role when it came to the restaurant business or hospitality. So I was hired as the catering and convention manager at the Grand Tree here in Bozeman. And honestly, I regretted that about 2 months in. I remember looking out the window of my office and looking up at the mountains and just thinking, I'm going to run. I just need to run out of this office. I'm done. I can't do this. It was just not my bag, I guess.
That's a common thing, though. I mean, for people that work in the restaurant business, getting to a point where you just think I don't know, whether you want to call it burnout or whatever, thinking like, I just need to go and do something else.
Mm-hmm.
Like, what do you think? What was it that was leading you to feeling that way? Or like, what do you think leads people to feel that way?
I think honestly, for me, I thought, oh, what's the next step? What can I do here? That's in the hospitality business. And that's when I thought maybe something more grand would have been a catering and convention manager. It was a huge position to be in, and I was still connected with, the kitchen and the kitchen manager there. But I think it's just that change of pace, I think, is what drove me to want to do that as well. Because you're on your feet all the time, you're running around a restaurant. And I thought maybe I didn't want to do that any longer. And it takes the time to step away from it to realize if that is truly what you're passionate about, or if that's something that you don't care to do. And in my in my situation, I definitely liked to be one-on-one with my people, one-on-one with the guests, with my team, being on my feet, running around. There's multiple things to do, lots of things to juggle at all times. And then whenever you're tasked to sit at a desk and you set up these multi-day conventions, multi-layers, lots of detail orientation things on it. And I enjoy that because I like all the details of things, but it was just disconnected from whoever was actually doing the convention, because there was usually like a lead person that I'd be in communication with over the computers and email and phone calls. And then when the event would actually happen, sometimes I wasn't there, or sometimes that person wasn't there, so you weren't really connected and really felt like a part of something that you created. And in the restaurant, you're always a part of creating and organically growing everything. And so that's when I realized that being on the floor is definitely where my passion lies, and that's what I think I'm more suited for.
Yeah. Getting to work hands-on with an actual team of people.
Yeah.
So you spent 15 years with Johnny Carino's.
Yes.
And then we roll into town in 2016, 2017. I remember meeting you for the first time, but what was that experience like? I guess, what do you remember from maybe like, whether it's our initial interview or kind of the first few days or weeks working together?
Yeah. I knew that, the restaurant that I was working at, they were going to be moving on and closing within the next year. So I started to seek out opportunity in the restaurant industry that would align with things that I cared about. I care about family, obviously. Like I said, I care about somebody that, establishment. And so I started looking into different places. And in Bozeman, there's a lot of, corporate places, little small places that are family owned and operated. But then I noticed this large building getting built on Huffine. And I thought, I wonder what that's going to be. Everybody in town's talking about it. And so then I saw the board get put up where it said, coming soon is going to be Sidewinders. What the heck is Sidewinders? So I went on the internet, looked up Sidewinders, found out about Blue Collar Restaurant Group, read Joe and Denise's story, and, Nicole and Ellie and Brooke, and I just thought, wow, this is really cool. These people are bought in. They really love what they do, and it's passion, because, where I'd worked at before, the parents were running the franchise, and none of the children ever were involved really in the restaurant. So I thought, oh, this is great. These are the people I think that I would like to be around, and hopefully they'll give me an opportunity to work with them. So I actually cold called down to Jackson Sidewinders, and Brooke answered the phone. She was hosting, and I said, hi. I said, I'm working in Bozeman as a manager, and came across the new location that's going to be built here in Bozeman, and I'd like to see if there's an opportunity that I could meet up with whoever the hiring, person is. Oh, sure, I'll get you in touch with Blaine. So, okay. Then I sent you out an email, and then we connected in Bozeman, and I felt very comfortable. Joe was there, Denise was there. We just sat down, and it was very comfortable to be around you all. I remember Joe ordering a beer, and I was like, sure, I guess I'll have a beer too. I don't even know if I drank it, but it was there, and I thought, oh, this is like, it feels right. And so I remember the conversation. It was a conversation more so than an interview. Joe wanted to know, kind of who I am, where my family's like, what my experience is, what my, thought of strengths and weaknesses, those type of things. But then it was just more of a conversation about like finding out about you all and finding out why he started what he did. And, started out with Mary Piglets and the first Uber service on bicycles and all that kind of stuff, the Uber Eats service. Like, I don't know, it's just a really cool conversation. And I remember Joe never actually saying that, your start date's this, you're hired. None of those words that you would think. I just remember him kind of saying, you'll see when you get to Jackson. You'll find out more about it when you get to Jackson. So I left that thinking, okay, I think I've got this in the bag, but I don't really know for sure. And then, obviously, it went from there, and I got to get into Jackson Hole and got to see all the multi-locations that you all had there, and it just reinforced me knowing I was in the right place and that I really wanted to perform for blue collar. And so, then we go through training, and then we opened Sidewinders in Bozeman. And opening in June was a busy time of the year.
Yeah.
People were really fired up about us. They were excited. And so, it was a really great experience. And it was either, getting to know you in LA along the way too was a lot of fun. And also, like I said, reinforcing, because I spent a lot of time really with Ellie because we were trying to piecemeal together some type of training program to train every position in the front of house together. Yep. And we didn't have a blueprint for it except for what we thought was going to work. And so it was really nice to get to spend a lot of one-on-one time with her, and then, with you as well, whenever we did all of our hirings and all of our interviews. It was just this revolving door of people, and all the amazing people we met during those initial interviews that stayed with us for a long time in the beginning was just, I feel honored that I got to be a part of that from the beginning. That's why I just feel so connected with Sidewinders.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think about that a lot, like, and how, our restaurant and our company and the culture is a sum of all of our parts, and the people that we were able to hire, starting with you. We're so fortunate to have been able to attract the right types of people, a lot of wrong people too along the way, but overall, I mean, very, very fortunate, and a lot of those people still being with us today, and continuing to help us attract and retain more of the right types of people, because that's what makes us who we are, and at the end of the day, like, kind of, putting out the types of product and the service that we're here to do. That's what our organization is all about. Right. I was 27 when we opened Sidewinders. I think about that a lot, and how much, our organization has grown and changed over that period of time. Curious from your perspective, how maybe what stands out as some things that have changed, good or bad, but whether it's about, me in particular, or, our team, your experience as being part of that team, really our longest term management team member here in the Bozeman market, other than the folks that have moved up from Jackson and joined the team. But, you're our sole day one Bozeman management team member here, our original OG hire. So, yeah, I guess, like, I don't know, what stands out to you is how the organization has shifted and developed over the last 6 or 7 years.
Yeah. Back when we opened Sidewinders, it was just running, you're floor managing with me. We're floor managing together, and Ellie, and, just your development and what you've created with the SLT is just, showing that there's always forward thinking going on with the company. It's not ever being complacent or accepting where you're at. I feel like that's really important. It's been great to see that happening, because the more we grow, the more dynamic you have to have a team overseeing everything to make sure that everything holds true to the culture and holds true to our pillars that we feel are very important and hold us together, so we can continue to get those dynamic people coming for us. We want to have the best people want to work with us, those types of things. I feel like with you, you've become a huge advocate in the community for the restaurant industry in general. So it's been great to have you have a voice and having that establishment in the community, and then everybody else that we have going on the team. Like we have Alex, who's developed a ton since he started working with us. I mean, he's always had all of his characteristics, but he's continued to grow and develop into the position that he's in now. And then having Riley that came on board after we had opened Sidewinders and see where he's gone. I just feel like it's really important to have those roles for us to continue to grow. And, it's been great to see that happen.
Yeah, I think like personal growth and development, it's a big privilege that we have so many people on the team that want that. It's a big responsibility, but it's a good problem to have where we have so many people. But I've felt that a lot, where it's kind of become a big part of my job and figuring out where to place people, how to position them, and where they need to be able to maximize their growth and development. Where do you think you're at with, you've kind of bumped around to different scopes of responsibility, always stayed within Sidewinders. You haven't really bumped around to different locations yet, but you've kind of worn different hats within that restaurant, and now really established as the location general manager. How do you feel like you've developed over the years as a manager and leader?
Like I said, I always feel like I want to be the one that's in charge. I like to feel like I am capable of running things the way that I feel like is expected. And I really just like people. I like to listen to people. I like to find their strengths as well. Like you said, that's what the company is really all about, finding opportunities for people. And I just feel like, from the very beginning, whenever you were stepping into other roles, opening Tanglewood, there were items that needed to be taken care of that weren't going to be on your plate any longer. And so I feel like along the way, I just kind of inadvertently, but also intentionally on my own accord, picked up on anything I could possibly do, because I knew that this is going to be a long-term career for me, and I wanted to be a part of whatever I can do to help as you all were continuing to grow and have to be outside of the Sidewinder walls. So I feel like, my development over the years with wearing all the different hats is just that, I just kind of went wherever I thought I was needed at the time, and it seemed to always just kind of work out well that way. But yeah, I've done, the support staff team manager a couple different times, server maybe a couple times as well. Yeah. And now I'm getting more involved with the back of house, just because I do have a background in it. So I feel like it'll just make me more well-rounded. So that's my next challenge that I'm working on for myself and for the restaurant operation as well. And I feel like anytime I've decided to take on something, I've been supported by everyone that, like you and Ellie and Alex, for whatever I wanted to take on, until I was able to be kind of let go on that, to where I was able to just do it on my own accord. So I really appreciate, like I said, being within Sidewinder walls. I haven't really, dabbled a shift over when we had Foxtrot, or maybe a couple over at Tanglewood, but I'm exclusively like a Sidewinder person. I love what it stands for. I feel like it's very connected to it. I feel like that's my place in this company.
What do you think makes, what is a Sidewinder person?
I think a Sidewinder person, that's a good question. I just feel like it's somebody that really cares about, military is a big thing for me. I'm very proud of our military. And I feel like, I really love the clientele that come into Sidewinders because they believe in that same type of, they believe in the military. They believe in coming in and seeing like these young people. We have a huge staff that we can actually have these young people that we get to develop. And sometimes it's their first job. And I enjoy that. I'm a mom and I feel kind of like I can help these kids in a different way than maybe a 20-year-old manager can when I'm in my 40s, that I can help navigate through some tough times with them. That's part of Sidewinders, and it's not that there aren't younger people at other locations. We just have a lot more of them at Sidewinders. So that's important to me.
I think that's really important. I mean, I was hoping that you would say that because the impact that these young kids can have on the restaurant and the impact that the restaurant can have on these young kids is really powerful, and the impact that you as a manager and a leader in the restaurant can have on these young kids is really powerful. I think we pride ourselves as a company and particularly at a restaurant like Sidewinders being able to like put responsibility and ask a lot of these kids and creating a positive and constructive environment for these kids to possibly work one of their first jobs and be surrounded with the right types of people and the right managers and leaders to create an environment where their parents are happy about them working and they can be surrounded by the right types of people.
Yeah. And like we've even had multiple siblings that work with us too. That's always like feels really good to me whenever somebody's working and they're like, oh, my younger sibling, as soon as they turn 14, they want to come work with us. Like that's makes you feel good. And that's the way it should be. And so sometimes you get those people that come in as a teenager and then they work through college and they've been there for how many years, and they're like I said, like the proud to serve is our catch tag. And I think that's awesome because that means that they're proud to be a part of us. And I think that's a huge testament to who we are. I think as a blue collar restaurant group is that we are able to nurture and develop these young people.
I think a lot of restaurant managers may look at 18, 19, 20-year-old kids working in restaurants as like maybe a little bit of a burden or a liability, and you're looking at that as like an opportunity, which is really cool, and something that I'm proud of for you and for our company. You were once 18, 19, 20 years old working in a restaurant. Thinking back to that time, what was your experience like working, like when you were at Applebee's in Great Falls? Like, did you have a positive, experience working? Like, did you have managers that kind of made a positive impact on you at that time?
Yes and no. I mean, we had a team of about 5 different managers, and a couple of them were really fantastic, and some of them were, dictators from the office. They didn't go hands-on. They didn't get on the floor. They didn't do anything. But the ones that, the couple that I really enjoyed working with, whenever you go on shift, you're like, oh, thank goodness this one's here. That's whenever I started learning, I guess, what a great manager and leader should look like. And so, being younger, I knew that I would think that it would be very generalized. The way that I felt around those certain managers is how everyone else would feel as well. And then whenever you're around the other type of manager, you're like, I don't want to work with that person. I don't want to work hard. You still do. Like, at least I always made sure I worked because it's just innately who I am, is to continue to do what I do. But working with those people whenever you're younger, if you had that one that's just not taking care of you, doesn't act like you matter, you're replaceable, that's not a good feeling. That's not motivating. So I think that, I know that our team that we have at Sidewinders, and even throughout the years, the people that have come and gone, there've been some that haven't been fantastic, but we've had, honestly, a really great track record. And usually they move on to another part of the restaurant group. And so it's been really great that I feel that there's a lot of people out there that have a lot of those experiences, either with the good or bad leadership in their lives. That's probably why they've decided to be the way that they are. Yeah. So.
Yeah, it's interesting. Like, Sidewinders has become a bit of a proving grounds for management candidates in our company. we seem to like pull people from Sidewinders to take on leadership roles in other restaurants, you know. That might seem a little unfair to Sidewinders, but I don't know if that's just based off of like the scale of the team, and we just, you know, have so many people that work there, and then we tend to develop them well, and then they are looking for opportunities, and as things grow, and, you know, like getting ready to open Mary Piglet's, for example, we're going to be moving people over there. How does that make you feel as a day one leader at Sidewinders, seeing these people, generations of people now having moved out and taking on managerial roles at these other restaurants?
Yeah, it makes me proud of them, honestly. I mean, you know, case in point with Avery, she started out as a host with no restaurant experience, and she worked her way all the way up, and now is managing at Tanglewood. Like I said, it's kind of like maybe that the matron part of me, it just feels like proud of people, and I support them, and think that it's great to see them seeking out opportunities, and if there's something there that they get to move into that. And then it also makes you feel really good too that, you know, that means that a lot of really great people come out of the walls of Sidewinders. So, you know, being a part of that just makes me feel good as well, because, you know, obviously we're doing something right there if you're able to pull people from there to move on to other opportunities within the company.
Yeah, so like if there's a young person that is either on our team today or joining our team someday that's interested in pursuing that type of career path, like wants to earn an opportunity like Avery has, or like so many other people in our company have, what advice would you give to that type of person?
I would tell them to make sure that they make it be known. Let us know, because there's nothing more that we would like to see than the people that are motivated and have that determination to want to do more, to let us know, because I'm sure that there's going to always be something that we're just going to continue to grow as a company. There's always going to be something available. And if they have the right attitude, work ethic, you know, you can get, you know, wherever you want to in the company, honestly.
What does that path look like? Do you, like, if you were in those that person's shoes today, what do you think that path looks like?
I'd say make sure that you're reliable, dependable in whatever you're doing currently. Try to always seek out new challenges. Make sure that you are going above and beyond. It doesn't go unnoticed whenever we have certain people on our team that obviously are seeking out more. And, you know, have open conversations with those people and let them know that, you know, we see you, and, you know, if you want to go further, then we have to have a discussion to see what might be available, what that path might be like, what the next step is, because different people are going to have different paths that they take to get where they want to go. Even if it's just getting from like a host to an expo, that's forward progress, and that's something that if they want to do that, then, you know, from expo they might want to be, you know, working in prep or something. So it's not always about moving from A to management. Right. It's about cross-training yourself, learning more of the operations, getting a wider scope of how things operate, and, you know, maybe they'll get to a position where they feel really comfortable, and that's where they want to stay. I mean, we have people on our team right now who've worked in positions that's their established position. That's what they really enjoy doing. Maybe they've tried to do other things, and they just didn't feel like that was what fulfilled them. And so, you know, they're in a position where they enjoy being, and that's great too. Yeah. You know, just trying different things, I think, is going to be really important. I feel like we've never not let people try something different.
Yeah. I think that's a really good point. Like, development and growth does not always equal moving into a management position. We've definitely been guilty of that in the past, of just thinking like, oh, you're a really great host or server or whatever. Like, that means you'd be a really great manager. It's not always the case, and definitely not what that person always wants. But identifying what that person really wants to work towards and helping them on that path is what we really want to pursue. Right. And helping them maybe figure out what that is, even if it's not within the bounds of the restaurant either. You know, if it's just a different personal or professional goal, if there's a way that we can help them pursue that, then that's awesome too.
Right. Like we have a lot of people that work within our restaurant group that like you said, have other passions in their lives, other paths, other, going to school for something. And, like Marcus, he's photography, film. Mm-hmm. And here he is doing what he's really passionate about, but he's also, working with us at Liberty Burger, and he's been at Sidewinders. So it's just great that opportunities are always there to integrate what you do outside of the restaurant group, like you just mentioned. Is nice to be able to invite them into using their skill set, something that I don't have. You're probably a good photographer, but but we have Marcus, and that's what he's going to school for. So it's great that we're able to take those types of skills and bring them into our restaurant group, instead of looking exteriorly and finding somebody knows or something that's not part of our restaurant group.
Yeah. And I mean, a restaurant group, with our Bozeman restaurants, 250-ish employees, but 100 plus of those are at Sidewinders alone. Mm-hmm. So in your role and interacting with all of those people, that's a lot of stories and relationships and personalities and individual goals to understand. And, how do you try to manage that of, people constantly, I'm sure, coming to you and saying, hey, I want to work towards moving from a host to server, from server to bartender, and how do you navigate that in terms of giving people objective pathways to say, okay, if you want to be a bartender, here's what I want to see you improve on?
Yeah. It's not just myself that does that. It's our management team as a whole, which is great because everybody has their departments and everybody knows what their expectations are for their department, for how they want to see a person get there. Sometimes you have to have a conversation with somebody about, real hard conversation. Like, if you want to get to this, we really need to work on these 3 items. But, great coaches, I feel like that's what we do as management. We're leaders, we're also coaches. You don't want to tell somebody that they, if they hate right field and they want to be able to be in left field, They just have to figure out some different things that they have to do to move over there. But with our restaurant group, if we have folks that want to move into different spots, we just have to give them some guidelines. I feel like we're really good about sitting down and have multiple conversations with people. Sometimes they may think that they're doing things, like I said earlier, about showcasing yourself or making yourself stand out for trying to go above and beyond. Maybe they're doing the wrong above and beyonds, where if they want to work towards being a bartender, maybe they need to do these 3 things a little differently. Not that the other things don't matter, but it's just that there's a certain path to get to certain spots in the group. Yeah. So I feel like as a management team, we talk about these people. If they approach one of us, and we'll collectively get an idea of what they can do, and then sit down with that person and do follow-ups with them, see if they're still interested after they've started taking that challenge upon themselves, if we've given them that opportunity. But, if it's the right person and they're going for the right goal, then they're going to achieve it just fine.
Yeah. Having been involved with Sidewinders for a long time and since the very beginning of our Bozeman location, what are some of the most important things to you about the restaurant and the team, and that somebody maybe who doesn't know the restaurant very well or maybe has never been there, what are some things that you would want them to know about the restaurant?
Like as a guest that would be coming in, or as a potential employee?
Say a guest.
Okay, so as a guest, if it's somebody that has never been there before.
Not like a sales pitch, not like what's listed on our website,
yeah,
but
how to do it.
Yeah, we're a family-friendly American grill with 76 beers on top. Yeah, we know that.
Yeah.
But I'm saying maybe kind of what's the next layer of the onion? What's the maybe a little bit deeper thing that maybe there's probably some misconceptions about the restaurant, right? What do you think those are, and what are like if you were to clear up any misconceptions about the restaurants, how would you do that?
I don't know what the misconceptions would be about it, but I have to think on that. But if it was somebody that's not really sure about Sidewinders and they're trying to pick between Sidewinders and going to somebody that's outside of our restaurant group even, it would just go back to like our service first mentality. I know whenever I dine out, I have a really hard time with not having great service, not seeing that the management team is doing anything. It just seems like they're not really connecting with each other. And I feel like whenever people come into Sidewinders, it's really an experience. They come in there, there's an energy there, the ambiance is there. It truly shows who Sidewinders is whenever you walk in the front door. You have guests, the hosts that greet you. You may take care of our military and our first responders that come in there. They get seating preference over anybody. That's really important. I think if guests see that, they're like, wow, like we've been waiting for 40 minutes for a table, and highway patrol walks in, they're going to get sat, and nobody ever says anything about that negatively. It's just like, oh, that's really cool that they do that. Nobody else does that, right? Once they get sat, you have servers that honestly are genuinely engaging with our guests. It's not taking an order, leaving, somebody runs your food, that's it. I feel like there's too much. I feel like there's a lot of missed opportunities in restaurants that I go to where it's just so simple. If you just have the right people there that have a genuine care for others, it shines through. And we are really fortunate to have a lot of those people that work with our team where it's, people getting the door for somebody whenever it's an elderly person coming in with a walker. Our hosts are out there opening the door for them, and other guests are seeing that. So, like I said, a lot of, there's some great servers that almost become tour guides whenever we have people coming in the summer. They are really engaged with people. They give them pointers. They, and the guests leave there and they just feel like, wow, I'm so glad I came to Sidewinders because they actually really care. I felt like it was an experience, not just a dinner or not just a lunch. Like, I feel like I connected with that place. And then it's just establishing that person's going to come back. Or if they're not from here, we have people all the time that are like, oh, we come out to Sidewinders for ski season like once a year. Mm-hmm. We always make sure that you're on our radar and we pop in to see you guys. Like, that is so cool. And, at least it took that person that one time to come and give us a chance that they're just like locked in. They are going to come back. But yeah, if I were to let anybody, out in the community that doesn't know what Sidewinders is, like, that would be one of the big things. It's like when you come here, you're going to be so taken care of. Like I said, proud to serve, service first. That mentality just flows through the place. I feel like whenever you walk in there, there's always that, I don't know, it's just set up that way. I just feel like we just have such a great team that makes people feel like that.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was getting at. Like, I guess our menu items and the decor and like those are like, I don't want to say surface level things, but those are the things that should be obvious as far as like the restaurant concept, but like kind of the second layer of the onion, meaning like these are the things that like if we're not delivering on, like we really want to know about it, and maybe it's not like advertised on our website or whatever, but like these are the things that we want to be delivering on in order to truly deliver that like experience that you talk about. I think lots of restaurants say, oh, it's an experience, it's not just a restaurant, but what does that really mean when it comes to Sidewinders? And I think it is that like proud to serve mentality. It's truly creating a personal relationship with the staff, from the host to the server or bartender, and making sure that we're putting a personal level of attention to detail and every touch point, at the table or at the host stand or on the plate, all that type of stuff really matters. And of course, as a manager or among the management team, that's a big responsibility, and scaling that to the whole restaurant and 100 plus employees is a big job.
Yeah, and I think it's our personalities and who we are and our character. It'll trickle through and flow through the rest of our team. And that's why, you can tell whenever, we've had people in the past that just aren't bought in. They're not there to champion others. It just doesn't work. So, whenever I go to work, I really look forward to being there. I look forward to working with my team. I look forward to seeing how their day was. And, they feel important, so they're going to have our guests feel important when they walk in the restaurant as well. So it's just like, creating that, upholding that culture of, like true care, kindness is important.
Yeah, when you think about some of our team members, we have quite a few that have also been around since day one.
Right.
What stands out to you as like personality or character traits that have helped them be successful in our environment?
I think like Ozzy. He's just, consistent. He's loyal. He believes also in, who blue collar is. He's Marine. He's family oriented, and he just he always feels welcomed. I mean, that's why I love coming to work. I feel welcomed. I feel like I'm a part of something. It's not just a job. It's not just a paycheck. It's I would never have asked Ozzy what motivates him to stay there instead of going anywhere else. But I really feel like it's just the culture of it because, his wife is a part of us. We've always supported them. And I feel like that's a thing too is, people that have been there like Joel, we've all felt, whenever we have had challenges outside of work, that you all have been very understanding and encouraging and patient. So I feel like that's probably a long term for, some of those people in Jackson have been there for 20 years or so. It's probably I would assume from my own personal experience that it's really being appreciated as a part of the team as opposed to just being somebody that's filling a position. I've been with blue collar for almost 7 years now, and I've gone through some different seasons in life, and everybody's been very patient and understanding, and if I feel important for that reason. It's a connection that you can't just create. It just happens whenever you feel appreciated. So I feel like that's probably a reason why you have a lot of people that stay with us on different levels of the company is because they are feeling appreciated, honestly, and understood, and they're not, the right person. Like there's been people who've been patient with maybe too long in the past, but there's still been that patience. The listening is, I feel like, a huge component of who we are as opposed to maybe a lot of places. I'm sure that's not something desired by by another place where they might just say, when you're going through something that's just too bad, we need to get somebody to replace you, or, not being heard. So I think that's a huge testament. I know that's a huge testament to who we are as a group.
Yeah, I mean, it goes both ways for sure. I think the organization is obviously very appreciative of the loyalty as well, because we are, like I said earlier, a sum of our parts, and dependent on these long-term people to help sustain and ensure a positive culture and kind of helping police the individuals that are brought in as newer members of the team, and making sure that as we grow, we're growing properly and maintaining the right types of cultural standards. So, talking about growth, we're getting ready to open our 5th restaurant in Bozeman. What does that mean to you as a original team member, and seeing how the company has grown and really made an impact in the community, and being a fairly large employer now, and how do you see your role in all of that?
I don't know what my role is in all that, except to just continue doing what I'm doing where I'm at.
Well, I
But
think that one of the things that stands out to me is like, I mean, you're a role model because of, you're really, like I said earlier, one of our longest term employees, and you're someone that we can point to and say, look, she's an example of the type of person that has succeeded, and an example of what we're looking for and how to be successful in our organization. So that's kind of what I'm referring to in terms of like, as we grow. I think that this, but we point to you all the time as far as serving as an example to lots of our other members of the management team.
Great. Thank you. But yeah, I think, looking at us opening their 5th location in Bozeman, it's just a testament to, never stopping with the group. I mean, it's pretty crazy to think even back, during COVID times that we were like, we're going to open a new location. Like, what? We're still doing this? But it's just that tenacity of nothing's really going to stop us. We're going to make sure you get it to work. We're going to figure it out. I feel like opening Mary Piglet's is going to be a lot of exposure for blue collar in Bozeman, because people have been talking about that restaurant since Sidewinders opened, and there's that open lot that's next to us. It's so mysterious. What's going in over there? We're going to get this great place called Mary Piglet's. Everybody's, when's it going to get built? Next summer. Is that going to be built yet? 2025. Okay. Well, we're going to have it in 2024. A different spot. People are so excited about it already. There's so much buzz about it coming in. So it's going to be exciting. I feel like it's, our other restaurants have been individual concepts. And so it's been I'm not sure how it is on your side with developing those concepts, but gaining traction and attention from a community when there hasn't been another established location. I think that was a benefit for Sidewinders, is that we had the Jackson one, so people could start trying it, looking into it, all that. So I feel like that's an advantage for Piglets coming into Bozeman, is that people are like, oh yeah, we've gone there. We love it. We can't wait to have one here. And there's not a Tex-Mex in Bozeman. So I feel like it's going to really expose more of our other locations once we have that as another anchor for the market area. And then people are just going to be able to, oh, cool, like there's Liberty Burger and Hachi and Tanglewood. Let's go try all these places. They're all fantastic. Let's try them all. So I'm really looking forward to it opening. I feel very confident, and I will mark it now. It will be Bozeman's best new restaurant next year. I know it. Wow. So I feel like if we can get it open, we'll have it open and rolling. But it's May or June. But I feel like you guys got this.
One thing I wanted to ask you is, I think a lot of people, when they think about a restaurant management job, which you've been doing for a long time now, restaurant management jobs are like stereotypically, labor intensive, lots of hours, bad work-life balance, just kind of unsustainable. But you've been doing it for a long time. So how are you making it work? And what does work-life balance mean to you?
Yeah, working in this organization, one of the things that definitely stuck out to me too from the beginning, whenever I had that interview initially with you and Joe, is that family's always first. It's very important. There's service and there's family first. But family is really important. So like you said, like the typical manager is going to be, X amount of hours per week. We're going to make sure we milk every last penny of your salary out of you so that you are, getting your hourly down or to whatever. And, hard hours, strange hours, things like that. And I've been fortunate working, with Sidewinders that, it feels so nice. It's just like family is important. We don't work those crazy long hours. We have, a 40 to 45 hour work week. It's manageable. You're still able to get home, and I get to take my kid to school in the morning, and then I get to go to work right after that, come home and make dinner. So it's nice because my day is full. It's not compromising my family time. So it's leads to me feeling more fulfilled because I don't feel like I am not spending time with my kids or not spending time with homework or, with my spouse or having my own time. You have to prioritize yourself too. I felt definitely in the past, where, you just feel like you're so consumed with work that you don't even want to be there any longer. And you feel like you are flat and too many parts of your pie are, and not in the right ratio.
Yeah.
So,
and I think there's probably been times, even when you've been working with us, like that you have felt like you've been spread thin, or like the kind of extracurricular responsibilities of your job have kind of gotten to you,
right,
personally or emotionally. But you've found ways to make those more manageable.
Yeah,
it seems.
Exactly. And, like having open conversations with you, being very honest with you, where, going through some times with, my kids going through some things in their lives, I've definitely had to take a step back from full responsibilities because I didn't have the mental capacity to do my job correctly and also be available for my family. So, being open and honest with you, and you also, like, said before, being patient and understanding in those times where, it's not that I want to step away completely. It's just at that time I feel guilty not being able to fully execute what my responsibilities are if I don't have the mental capacity to dedicate to my responsibilities at work, and that's why I had to step away for a little bit. And, that was seven or so months. And, whenever I go back and say, hey, if there happens to be an opportunity to where I can get back to full time now, I'm feeling like I'm in a position to be able to do that. And, here I am now back to being able to be full time. So, that's really important. That work-life balance isn't always going to be a very black and white setup. This is what I think it's going to look like. It's going to shift sometimes. It's going to look different. Sometime I might have more time to spend at work than I am right now being, focused on my kids.
Yeah.
And when that time comes, who knows what other opportunities I might take on at work. But right now I feel really comfortable where I am. And I wouldn't have been here. I would have either gotten burnt out or something if I hadn't been able to be allotted that time to kind of step away and take some responsibilities at work off of my shoulders. And now my work-life balance is back to feeling comfortable, and my kids are, thriving because I was able to do that for a little while. And sometimes that's all it takes.
Yeah, I think that's a really interesting subject, and it gets like communicated out there as if there's like some perfect definition, like X number of hours per week on the clock is going to, result in like the ideal work-life balance for every individual. And that's just not the case. Like everybody's situation is different depending on your personal life, your family life, your career goals. No two people are the same. And so I think it's like up to the individual to define like what work-life balance looks like for you. And that changes from month to month, like it requires constant attention and, kind of recalibrating yourself to what your ideal work-life balance looks like. And ideally having those open conversations either with your employer, or if you're self-employed, having that conversation with yourself and figuring out like, okay, do I need to reprioritize time or find, new organizational systems, or hire somebody, or delegate tasks to somebody on my team, things like that. I think that's something that I really hope that anybody who chooses to listen to this, at least within our company, hears that's an option. We've talked about that quite a bit before, that work-life balance kind of exists on this spectrum, that if you're super career oriented and that's your path, we can support that. And if you're super family oriented, we can support that. Or somewhere in between, that's cool too.
Yeah.
But it's different for everybody.
Exactly.
And there's no right or wrong answer, but you need to communicate to us, and it's okay if it's changing too.
Yeah.
But that's going to kind of dictate, where you get positioned and what type of opportunities are put in front of you as well.
Right.
So, yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, Jackie, it's been a really cool experience looking back on this. I mean, preparing to sit down and talk to you today, thinking back about, where I was at personally and in my life, and having just moved to Bozeman when I first met you, and
Right.
and Ellie and I had just gotten married. Obviously didn't have kids yet, and opening our first restaurant, life was completely different.
Absolutely.
And I think sometimes I forget about that, because things move so quickly in our day-to-day and in the business and company and the career and everything. But that was a really important time for me.
Yeah.
And it's really cool to have shared that with you.
Yeah, likewise. Yeah, it's like I said, there's been a lot of changes in my life too. And, like just the other day whenever I went to Hachi with Mira, you haven't seen her probably for quite a while. She's like a young adult now. Yep. And when I started there, she was just a little gap-toothed little girl. So it's really fun to see where, my life has gone, both career and family as well. It's really cool. And, next year she wants to work with us. So there you go. It's just like a full circle, yep. Being the little kid to now she wants to come work at Sidewinders with her mom.
Soon she'll be taking your job.
I know she could, maybe someday. But yeah, it's been really a fantastic journey so far, and look forward to seeing where it goes in the next 7 years. So
who knows?
Pretty cool.
I certainly didn't know that we'd be doing this 7 years ago.
Yeah, exactly. I just wanted to get the right food on the table at that time.
Exactly.
So now here you are opening a whole nother restaurant. So another kid on the way, and life is great.
Yeah. Well, thanks for all you do. Super proud of you and the team and everything that we're all accomplishing. So
likewise, I'm glad to be a part of everything with you.
And thanks for doing this today. Really fun. We'll do it again soon.
Thanks. Appreciate you inviting me on.
Yeah.
All right.
Cool. Thanks, Jackie.
Thank you, Blaine.
Thanks for tuning in to another episode of the Service First podcast. Join us on our mission to spread the word and inspire others to lead with a service first mindset by sharing this episode with your friends and colleagues. Don't forget to rate, review, and subscribe to the Service First podcast on your favorite platform. We can't wait to connect with you and continue this important conversation about service, community, and leadership.